every day, and I'm still so amazed by you. So hold me tight through the night. It's just us two, me and you. Oh, oh, I can't believe you love me. Oh, oh, I just feel so lucky. Oh, oh, still can't believe you love me. I hope it never ends. Let's being more than friends. Yeah. You know I'm here to stay every single day. Yeah. So hold me tight through the night. It's just us two, me and you. Oh, oh, I can't believe you love me. Oh, oh, I just feel so lucky. Oh, oh, still can't believe you love me. Forget about signs and rules. Oh, the pavement and the long, long roads. Yeah, and you're always in such a rush. With your life playing from the stereo. Oh, you get it but all alone. And you're always staring at your phone. You need another great relief. We all need a turn and leave. Oh baby, this time will be gone forever. Never in our lifetime will you see us back here again. So come before it's too late. Hurry now cause I can't wait. Let's put on our anthem. We'll be singing all night long. All night long. Fishes in the stream, and down the boulevard of broken dreams. So we make a little change in pace, a minor shift of time and space. Oh baby, this time will be gone forever. Never in our lifetime will you see us back here again. So come before it's too late. Hurry now cause I can't wait. Let's put on our anthem. We'll be singing all night long. Oh baby, this time will be gone forever. Never in our lifetime will you see us back here again. So come before it's too late. Hurry now cause I can't wait. Let's put on our anthem. We'll be singing all night long. All night long. such a fine romance. Bit by bit, I am slowly waking to see what's real, to finally heal. How will I cope without your word? How will I cope without your heartbeat? How will I I fell in too deep. And as far as at least how I remember, we were leaving in September when red and gold paint the sky. And as far as though maybe I pretended, oh, I wish it never ended. I held on with all my might, still waiting on that last goodbye. See you standing by the door, watching the leaves as they fall once more. In the silence we made, I couldn't find the words to say. They linger in my mind. Oh, I wished you'd stay. Oh, I wished you'd stay. And as far as at least how I remember, we were leaving in September when red and gold paint the sky. And as far as side, though maybe I pretended. Oh, I wish it never ended. I held on with all my might, still waiting on the last goodbye. Last goodbye. Last goodbye. Last goodbye. And as far as at least how I remember, we were leaving in September, when red and gold paint the sky. And as far as though maybe I pretended, oh, I wish it never ended. I held on with all my might, still waiting on the last goodbye.
Sing, won't you sing with me? Leave everything for me. Stay the night. Oh, miss your flight. Walk through the rain with me. Get soaked to the skin, feel free. Shut the world out. Let's hang out. Colors, now it's gray. Till I met you at the concert the other day. The whole room lit up with warm, sunny rays. Tonight we'll turn minutes into days. Your head and lead, count the stars, oh, before you leave. Save a kiss, pretty please. Try to reminisce over me. Know that I will cherish your memories. Oh, I used to see your colors. Till
should always